1.
Oh, see, it doesn't give me the countdown. And yes, everyone, hello. This is Teach Jenn Tech, and we have Bakari again. And yes, he like had the perfect timing for when we were the countdown to go live. And I'm like, StreamYard doesn't even show the countdown. What? So
I actually didn't even have a countdown. I just
yeah, you
did
just
it
have
like
magical timing. That's
exactly.
just what it is. And for those of you who didn't catch earlier this week, this is part 2 of integrate payments into your React app with Square. So we are doing part 2 today. And in case anybody didn't catch part 1, it will be linked in the comments. And also, Bakari, please introduce yourself for anybody that didn't see you on Wednesday.
All right. Well, I am Mr. Bakari Holmes. I am a developer advocate and content creator, also software engineer, physicist, teacher, musician, a whole bunch of things. So I, recently connected with Jen. I believe it was through Twitter, and it has been really awesome. And we actually talked about doing this, this session. It was originally supposed to be one session, and it ended up getting stretched to 2 sessions because, we be talking. So, yeah, I'm just happy to be back and to close this out and seeing all your comments.
I just want to shout out to just all the guests that have been on here, and because they all end up being like a 2-part process of, like they're doing one thing and then they come back to either finish it out or do something else. And it's just really cool that people can get used to some of the guests on the show and learn who they could reach out about a specific topic. So, like, for example, if somebody had questions on integrating payments, they're like, oh, I can hit up Bakari. He probably knows what's up. Or if they want to look into build like Vite and Vercel, they could reach out to Anthony. And Yere helped me with the bare basics of JavaScript back in the day. And it's crazy because I'm like, oh, I actually kind of get that. So people should hit him up for so much more. And I should have him back on the show since it's not a complete newbie thing anymore. I mean, we're like getting there 1% at a time with all the shows. But with being just slightly over a month old, we have had, I think this is our 12th airing live, our 12th live, which is exciting. And we have a ton for August. So this is really cool, even though everybody's on vacation or holiday in August. This is exciting. So, all right. I have to get back into what we were working on. I have my index, which where we left off the other day that kind of took us a bit was troubleshooting an error we were getting from starting it up. And it was because I put payment instead of payments. And it took 3 of us troubleshooting to realize that that is what I did, which did make me feel a lot better about being a newbie, because it's like, y'all have a ton of knowledge and experience. And this is something that all coders run into. It's not just a newbie thing. It is an everyone thing.
Right.
So I really appreciated that. And we also decided that Anthony is going to come on the show and talk to us about documentation, which is going to be dope too.
Yep. I think the lesson there is that troubleshooting is not a magical process. You don't wave a wand and then figure out the problem. It is a trial and error many times, or it is, if your code is modular and it's divided into pieces, testing each piece out to try to figure out where the problem is. So, or looking at an error that's been logged to or shown to you, and then looking at the documentation, and then from there going back to your code, and then trying to have a better idea of what to look for. So it is not magical.
I wish it was. I do wish it was, because that would make things so much easier. But I am looking forward to now. Now, the one part I don't remember from the other day of what were we doing to run and find the error? It was like, I thought it was like npm something, but I don't quite remember.
So this is in the next documentation, or most applications have like an npm run or npm run something. For next, to run your application on your local computer, you do npm run dev, and that's development. That's the development version of your application. And this typically is, as you're developing, as you're building features, as you're building out your code, you can run the development version. It'll run on your local host typically.
That is really cool. And as something that I learned from working on doing this myself with Vite is these formats do have updates and can like change things around. And something that I was running into there is they created a very random localhost number, not the usual like 3,000. So definitely read what it is saying, because it doesn't always, it's not always the same for everything.
Right.
But if I take that localhost 3,000 and put it into a browser, we got it. It's the normal Next.js from the pages /index.js, which is under the pages folder, the index.js.
And if you look at the JSX, which is basically HTML in JavaScript, on your index.js file, let's just kind of take a look at what's on the screen versus what's in your code.
No, okay, whatever. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I'm like, I'm gonna get there.
So if you see on the bottom there, it says create next app.
Yeah.
And then if you hover over, if you look at your tab, see what it says?
Yeah, because we got documentation.
Higher on the top of the page.
Oh yeah, welcome
your
to
Chrome tab. Higher, right there.
Ah,
that's where that text comes from.
Oh, that's cool.
Your title tag, and that's all part of your head tag. So these are things that are, Bakari is dope. You can change that. And once you save it, it should hot reload, meaning once you save, the builder detects those changes and then should re-render.
All right, and save. Oh, decline. Don't even talk to my friend. It's supposed to be ignoring it. But that's cool.
Yeah. So there you go. You just made a change.
Yay!
And now it's showing that change. You didn't even have to run npm again. You didn't have to run your server again. It actually built into the Next.js packaging is that
is cool.
Hot reloading. Yeah, and it really comes in handy when you're developing, because you can just, on one screen, you can have your what you're rendering or what you're running, and then on another screen you can have your code. Maybe you can have your command line on another place, and it helps your workflow.
Nice.
So I mean, lots of people have different ways that they work, and they like to have all kinds of different colors on their command line, and their Git. They would like to have their Git status maybe. There's all kinds of really cool and complicated, colorful tools that you can use. But we're gonna stick with the basics for right now, because our focus here is to build a working Next.js and Square integration. So what I want you to do is, I actually want you to erase index.js, erase everything. Do you have an import at the top? Credit card. Okay. Everything except that from line 2 down. So from line 2 down, erase everything. We're going to start over. Okay.
Voila. And hit save, I'm guessing?
Yeah. If you hit save, then now it's going to be a blank page.
Yay. because there's nothing to render or do anything with. Okay.
Okay. So now what we are doing right now is we are importing 3 things. And we are using the import that's a command in JavaScript, and that's recognized in React. And that open curly brace and that credit card payment form. I'm just explaining what's on line 1. That credit card payment form and ACH. Those are 3 different components or types in the React Square Web Payments SDK. If you go to your web browser and Google React Square Web Payments SDK,
React Square, I can't type Square Payments SDK. Yay for coming up.
Yep. You want to go? Yeah, there you go. That's actually an npm. We want the GitHub.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. There we go. And if you now click see the link to their website.
This one?
Yep.
Yep.
Click that. Yeah. And there should be some documentation. So do get started.
There's docs up here.
Oh, or you can do that. Okay, awesome. So now you notice there's introduction, and you can go back and read this in depth. But there's getting started, and then there's credit card. You see how there's credit card there on the left-hand side? If you expand that, it says usage. So click on usage, and it'll tell you like how to use credit card in the documentation. And if you notice, the first thing it tells you to do is to import credit card in payment form. And that's what we've done.
And then, so that means the next one, I'm not like saying anything, but like, since we did the ACH right here, that's going to be under ACH right down here because
you got it.
Okay.
But we already have the payment form. So all we have to do for ACH is just import ACH.
Okay. So that means that we need the export information as well.
We are going to be doing that, but we're going to go, that's at the bottom of the file typically, or at the beginning of the function. So we're going to go line by line, and we're going to build out our component.
Okay.
Our components within components. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is that components can stand on their own in React. Components can be functions, or they can be classes. We talked about classes yesterday, right? Components also can house other components as children. So in other words, like you can have an outer component. Like, let me share my screen here.
Yeah, for sure. Let me switch it over. There we go.
Okay, here. Let me see. Oh, you've already got it there. I didn't realize it was already sharing. So here we have an outer function called myPaymentForm. And if I click here, right, on the starting open paren, it ends way down here, right? So that means this function, all of this stuff is inside this function.
Okay.
myPaymentForm. So when this file runs, it's going to, this function is defined here. But if we go to, what is it, app.js? So yeah, we have my app, and we have component and page props. That actually, it's not very clear, but basically it's going to grab what's in index.js, and it's going to run it. Now there's some steps missing because there's some things that Next is doing behind the scenes. Right. But essentially it's going to take this index.js. That's why it's giving us this. And it's going to run this function. It's going to fire. It's actually going to run this whole file. So first thing it's going to do is go, oh, okay, you want to import credit card, payment form, and ACH. All right, I'm going to go and I'm going to grab this. Now remember the whole code splitting thing and the whole preloading, prefetching. So I'm not sure when it's going to do this, but it's going to do it at an opportune time that optimizes your page load time. Now, when your application is small, doesn't make a whole lot of difference. But when your application starts to scale up and be larger, then it starts to make a whole lot of difference. You know, it's like your page loading in, depending on the size, your page loading in a second versus like, 4 seconds. And also depending on your device.
Like right. We compared that one to, or I compared it to like Quick, because in Quick, it only loads what you need it to load.
Exactly.
Okay.
And in code splitting, it loads what you need it to load, and it also determines the order that things need to load in. So that's also important. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to do const my payment form.
Okay, so I'm working on also doing it where I get the lines right, because of like proper coding. Okay, so const my payment form.
So I'm going to, I just got rid of that just for clarity's sake.
And
this syntax is what's called an arrow function.
Okay.
It's the same as going function my payment form. And then, here's our parameters, and then we want to pass in. If we would have had a parameter here, that would be called a prop, but we don't have any props here, but we'd say, prop whatever.
Okay.
Or, customer name. Let's say it was customer name. Right. This is the payment form. Let's say the payment form needed a customer name. We could pass it in there to my payment form. But right now we don't need any. We don't need any props.
Okay.
Props are just they're just arguments or parameters to the function.
Okay.
Okay. So this is just another way of doing the same thing, declaring this function, and we're actually my payment form is going to be also a variable that holds a function, because we say const, right? Just like we created variables before with const. We say const my payment form, and then it's saying it's equals, or it's going to be assigned to this, which is just an empty function at this point.
Okay.
All right. So let me get rid of that. Now, what we're going to do, one of the first things we're going to do is we are going to do payment form. And then for clarity's sake, and I'm going from the outermost component to the innermost component. So I'm starting with payment form. Do that. So that's what you want to do. You want to have payment form. Actually, hold up. Wait a minute. Here, I could just type it like this. So this is that payment form we just imported.
Okay.
And it's the opening and closing tag.
Okay. And is line 3, is that very part at the end, is that a regular bracket or is it a squiggly bracket?
This here?
Yeah.
That's an open paren.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And then the close parens down here.
Cool. That's what I got.
You're going to want, yeah, and you're going to want to, semicolon like that. Okay. So
Got
we
it.
have the payment form. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, we do undo, is inside your, let's see here, actually, we're not going to need that there. What you want to do is hit enter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to enter a whole bunch of stuff inside a payment form. Now,
Okay.
for Square payments, the form that you're sending in when you have a transaction needs certain things. One of the things is an application ID. And you created an application before, and you were given an application ID. So what it does is it identifies the calling form with a verified application ID generated from the Square dashboard. So they want to control what applications are actually making these calls and the users tied to those applications.
Yes.
Especially when you're dealing with finances, you're dealing with people's money, people's identity. Those two things are high security risks for.
I'm also remembering how to get back there. So that way I can ensure I have that information.
And I'm displaying my sandbox value for the world to see here. And what you want to do is have application ID equals, open quotes, and it's going to be a string, which is your sandbox dash SQ something.
Am I not scrolling down? I can't find it again.
Did you put it on on your?
Oh, I might have put it all of it, but I'm not sure if I put all of it on my notepad. Let's see if I did all of it. Oh, I did all of it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yay.
I think I remember us doing that.
Okay, so we've got payment form, and then we need to do application ID. Equals. All right, I am there.
All right. Awesome.
And then card token response.
Yeah, this is sounds a little heady, but I'm gonna just kind of break this down. So the purpose of this is kind of twofold. When you are making when you want to have a transaction, like for instance, you want to charge a credit card.
Right.
Two things need to happen according to the Square documentation, and we can actually go to the Square documentation. Let me see here. I think I pulled it up somewhere. Here it is. Okay. So you should be able to hopefully see. The Square documentation page here on get started with Web Payments SDK. So there's a ton of great information here. If you go down here to the overall implementation flow of an online payment option, it works as follows. You need to do two things. One, you need to configure the Web Payments SDK client library with your application to render a payment method form and add and to generate a payment token. So we are configuring our client library by using those React components that we just imported.
Okay.
And we are importing them and then placing them inside the payment form. We haven't got to that yet. And that's going to, it's going to configure, it's part of the configuration. Then also, we are doing this card tokenized response received function. And that does a few things. One, it does a fetch request, which a fetch request is just what it sounds like. You're asking someone to go fetch something. Mm-hmm. So it's fetch is a function. And let me go back to my code. So fetch is just a function here. And we are saying, okay, we want you to go fetch some information from a database or from a URL. The URL in this case is API pay. We haven't set that up yet, but we will in a second. And then its method is post. There are these are the types associated with REST and HTTP. Typically, HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's the protocol or the way of communication in the web, and that's get, put, post, delete, and update, I believe. The most common ones are CRUD or create, read, update, delete. Those are the most common.
I feel like I need to do an episode just on that and then an episode just on protocols because like I get them, but I don't get them.
Would you say criticals?
On those and then protocols.
Protocols.
Like HTTPS and then IMAP, POP.
Yep.
There's more than that.
The rabbit hole goes deep. The rabbit hole goes deep, definitely. But for right now, all we need to worry about is post. And when you're doing a post request, you are sending a body of information along with your request. You have a header and you have a body, and that body is in a certain format. In this case, it's JSON. You're going to hear that a lot, especially if you're dealing with the web. You're going to hear JSON, JavaScript object notation. It's really just a JavaScript object. In this case, it's going to have a whole bunch of things inside the JavaScript object. This is going to have source ID. That source ID is the token we just read about in the documentation that we need to generate a token. So when this function card tokenized response received, which it is a function, we're passing in the token and the buyer. But when this fires off, when the payment form receives the result of a tokenized generation request, the result is going to be a valid credit card or wallet token, or you're getting an error. So the Square API is going to give you one of those. Okay. So if it's an error, it'll be a helpful error that tells you, hey, credit card was invalid, or, sometimes you see those actually when you swipe your card, it's a pin was invalid, whatever, something. Hopefully you don't get a 500, which is basically like an internal server error. You can't do anything about that, but hopefully it's something you can do. If you're writing the code, you can do something about. But if you're like the customer and you make that, you swipe your card and you see a 500, it's like, oh man, I can't buy it.
Yeah,
I'll go to another store. So you want to have helpful errors. Okay, so we talked about methods. We talked about headers. In the header, we're just going to say what the content type is. And we say application JSON because we want the type for this request that's coming from the front end to our back end. We want it to be in JSON.
Okay.
We're sending some JSON. In this body, just JSON.stringify what this does is, oh, look, if you hover over it, it tells you what it does. It converts a JavaScript value to JSON, a JSON string. So it's still JSON, but it's in a string because, you know, the web likes strings.
Yeah.
Things in quotes.
Oddly, because my mom was joining yesterday, she was talking about it, and I don't know if you know this, but she said back in the day she heard that string, instead of being like something in quotes, meant like multiple files working together, was a string of files kind of thing.
Yes.
And so was it called string, and is that still called string?
You know what? I'd have to look into the origins of like string. I know strings have been around a long time, but you know, yes, there can be a string of files, and you can like process them, you know, one by one, or process them in a batch. But yes, they are. So a string of files. So if the word string still means the same thing, but it could be like a string of files. It could be a string of characters. And in the case of the string we're talking about, it's a string of characters because every character has an index. They start at the index 0. So index 0 of, let's say, your application ID. Index 0 of application ID would give you the S.
Okay.
Index 1 would give you the A.
Okay.
So they're like an array, really, because they're stored like an array in memory. In these different memory slots.
I'm going to say I think I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand what you're saying, but I think it'll click later on.
Okay, I wish I had a whiteboard. I would just draw some boxes, and each box would be a memory slot. And then I would put S in the first box, and then A in the next box, and then I would label the first box 0.
Okay.
So in order to access that memory, you need a way to do that. And in strings, they use numbers. So you say like application ID, and then like if you did here, I'll just, for now, let's say we did application ID and then 0. Right? So what that is going to do, it's going to say, okay, look at the string application ID and get the 0th character.
Okay.
Which is S. So that's going to return, that would return S. That would give you S.
Okay.
If you wanted application ID 1, that would give you A. So it just goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to the end. And you could also say, you know, application ID dot length. It has a length property that you can access. I can't remember if that's a function or if it's just length. But that would give you the length, like how many characters long this is.
Okay.
So just some things about strings and about like accessing strings and kind of, we're not manipulating them yet, but just some stuff about strings. And that is actually across languages.
Okay.
That's in Python, that's in JavaScript, that's in Java, that's in C++, C#. Like all these languages that I've dealt with, all of them have a way of dealing with strings, and all of them, they're stored as arrays. In some cases, they are, well, I'm not going to get into that. But we don't need to get into that.
Okay. As a total side note, after writing this all out, it looks like awake and fetch are underlined for me. And I'm wondering, is that just because we're not to what it's going to be using? Because right now it says parsing error, missing semicolon for awake. And
for await?
Oh, that's why. Me and dyslexia. Like this is going to be, oh my gosh. Oh, hey, what do you know? It fixed itself.
All right. So I'm not sure how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. Basically, await and async, they go together.
Okay.
So there are different. So JavaScript is an asynchronous language, meaning JavaScript doesn't just execute first line, second line, third line, fourth line, fifth line. It doesn't execute like that. There are ways that you can introduce things to control when functions are called, or when this line is executed. You can actually, like, for instance, you can go to a database. Maybe you're going to a database and you want to wait until that database returns with a value before you continue your execution. Does that make sense? So in this case, this card tokenized response received, right? We want it to set our value, or to do this alert. We wanted to do that after we have fetched this data after we've gotten a response from the database or from our backend.
That makes sense.
Okay, so you don't want it before that, right? You want it to be able to process. If there's an error, you want it to return that error and give you good information. This is kind of getting into a RESTful API. Somebody, I think, might be coming on and doing REST with you. Some of this is going to be, like I was saying, like, this brings up together a whole bunch of different,
different, like, like there's they all interconnect at some way or another. And
concepts. That's what
yes, like, there's so much out there in the world, which makes the show really fun, because at the moment I'm just kind of like scraping the surface of everything instead of diving in deep. And a big reason I'm doing that is because I feel like so many newbies are asked, well, what do you want to do with it? Like, what do you want to learn? Do you want to be back end or front end or full stack, or like figuring all that out? And I'm like, I don't even know.
You don't know enough to make that decision yet.
Yeah. So I'm excited for this month that I was able to focus on a lot more of JavaScript. So that way I feel like I have a bit of an understanding before I at least see examples of Python. Now, one day trying to understand GraphQL, I'm not sure if I'll ever get there. But for today, figuring out web payments.
Yeah. So do you have this whole function here?
Yes.
Okay. And you have the await here, the await response. So again, there's one async here inside this bracket, and it's saying, okay, this is going to be an asynchronous. This is going to be an asynchronous operation, and I want you to wait on this fetch request going to API/pay. And then I also want you to await the response.json. So, once this response happens, and then converting it to JSON, right? There's what's called a promise, and I'm not going to get into what promises are, but basically, I want you to wait for this to complete, and then I want you to execute the rest of this. JSON.stringify, which we already saw. It's taking JSON and turning it into a JSON string, basically putting quotes around it, so it can be, parsed by, the web parser. And then this alert. Have you ever seen something pop up in a little box on your web browser? That's an alert. So what we want to do is we want to actually alert the response. And it's going to be in JSON. And we'll go through it and look at, when we get the response, what it says, assuming, we get a successful one. Okay. And then the last thing we want here inside of our payment form is our location ID. And this just identifies the location of the merchant that is taking the payment. And that's from the Square Application Dashboard, the Locations tab. Uh-oh, I can't hear you.
I muted myself because I was drinking water. I didn't think you
okay.
wanted to hear me drink water. Okay,
Okay.
now I was just gonna say, I'm glad that the other day I copy and pasted all three because I was like, I don't remember how to get there. And now I understand why you're supposed to take notes on this stuff. I'll get there. I am excited for Anthony to come on the show and teach me about that.
Sure.
All right. So I'm seeing how that's done. Curiosity on the note on component for taking credit card payments. That one is inside of curly brackets.
This is actually a comment.
Oh.
And because JSX is not HTML and it's not JavaScript necessarily, it's both of them put together. Instead of just doing that where you would take a comment, you put a comment there. That's how you do a comment, by the way, in JavaScript.
Yeah.
You actually would say, okay, this is JavaScript right here. So it knows how to parse it. And then you put the component inside of there. So it doesn't think that this is, some JSX or HTML.
Okay. And then why on line 31 do we have a bracket? Or not
because this closes out this component.
Oh, okay.
These, remember how I showed you there were arguments that go to this function?
Yeah.
Say customer seller. And those things are properties of the function. Well, these things, they're much more long and drawn out, but these are properties of this component.
Okay.
They're essentially properties being passed into the component. Application ID, card tokenized response received, that whole function, alert. Actually, I think that's inside of card tokenized response received. It is. And then location ID. So there's those three properties: application ID, this function, and this alert. Now in JavaScript, yes, you can pass functions to other functions. Those are called callback functions.
Makes sense. I'm looking at the documentation. That's why I'm staring at the other screen.
Okay.
To see if I can follow along if I were just looking at the documentation. Okay, I'm seeing where we're at now. I see where we're at. And then
good job looking at the docs.
I'm learning. I'm working on it. Okay. Okay, I thought I had it, and it's close but not close. Oh, that's why. Because I was looking at card payments, but not payment form. And payment form is going to be different than card payment because we're going to do card payment next.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes. So payment form needs to be there, I think, for all of the payment types. So they all need the payment form. Then the payment type goes there in addition to the payment form. It comes, after it or before it. But, essentially, like here with credit card, all we have to do, and the cool thing that I wanted to show you, all you have to do, because we imported it, because this third-party library is, we just do credit card and then close. We close it out, and then boom, we have a credit card payment.
So I guess where I'm stuck, if I'm looking at the documentation, is I remember when you were showing us and looking at web payments, it said that it needed the payment form, but I'm not seeing how the payment forms are added on their documentation.
On Square's documentation?
Yeah.
Okay, so remember Square has just a bare SDK. And
Oh,
they give an example, but it's just an HTML and plain JavaScript.
okay.
It's not specific to React. It's not specific to Python or anything. It's just an example with index and I'm sorry, index HTML, which with HTML and JavaScript that you can use in any of those environments. And then Square has also published extra tutorials on like React, Next,
Hmm.
and on these different platforms or these different frameworks.
Got it. So that's why the credit card or card payment is showing, but not payment form, is because payment form is much more universal for all payment forms.
Yeah, all types of payment. Yep.
Okay.
And you'll see either payment form, I think it's payment form on the documentation, but you won't see like components because components are
Mm,
specific to React.
okay.
And this third-party library has taken what Square has done and then has housed them all in components. So it's made a payment form component. It's made a credit card component, and it's made a payment ACH component. It's made a Afterpay component. So if you're already developing in React and you're making components,
Hmm.
this makes it so much easier to implement because you just import it, right? You npm install it, and then you
Hmm.
import it, and then you can just use those components to add payments to your existing React app.
That makes sense. It does make sense. I think it's gonna take me a hot minute to get there of like fully understanding it, but it definitely
Yes.
does make sense now how to implement it later on. I will get there.
Yeah. Well,
So
you're getting introduced to Square. You're getting introduced to some JavaScript promises. You're getting introduced to like RESTful APIs. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff at once.
but I feel
So
like I will say I feel very fortunate getting introduced to all of it at once because that's kind of how my brain works, is just, being able to take in all the information to know, okay, that's how what I'm learning right now will connect to XYZ.
mm-hmm.
So, and then really quick for the account charge, you just put in random things right there?
Yes, I was trying to be funny. You know how people usually say John Doe?
Yeah,
I just put John Don't.
get
Um,
you. I get you. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have to like literally say that, but
yeah, so ACH for a direct debit, you do need an account holder, you need a redirect URI, and you need a transaction ID. So I just like made up, 54321 and just example.com, which, oh, look at this. Moot Woot is in the house.
what up?
What up? I don't know if I should say his real name. I'll just call him Moot Woot. He said if you didn't use a wrapper, oh, you want to put that one on the screen? Because that's really germane to what we're talking about.
Wait, what?
Do you want to put Moot Woot's
Oh,
comment
thank
on the
you.
screen,
I was like, wait, what are we talking about?
please? He said if you didn't use the wrapper, that's the not the wrapper, not me, but dad joke. If you didn't use the wrapper, that's the third-party library that we're using to import our components.
Mhm.
He said you would need to code up a way to delay rendering React because the Square JavaScript loads async in the browser.
Okay.
He's
And
typing. He's typing.
yeah, the React Square Web Payments SDK library.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
It's definitely a lot to learn. Something that may be a bit interesting of every time that I've created the account holder name and then redirect URI, it's creating a single quote instead of a double quote. And
You mean
is
by
that,
default?
yeah.
Yeah. I think I believe it's convention, but the convention I was using was double quotes. So let's just stick with double quotes.
Okay, I just wanted to know if it was like something I needed to be concerned about, or if it's just like, because I've been told about you can also change a lot of the structure of what it defaults to do. So I just wanted to make sense it wasn't like a code issue.
Yeah. What I like to do is I like to have my outer. Is this right? Is my brain dying? I think I have my outer. So let's say you have like quotes, and within those quotes you need another quote, right?
Okay.
I usually like to have my outer quotes be double, and then like if I have to have an escape character, then it could be single. But I like to have the outer ones double and the inner ones, single. Like John Don't. I guess I could have escaped that. So anyways, yeah. Anyways, it's just convention, but
okay.
Double. There you
go.
Cool.
Yay. Then if I bring up my local host again. Oh, okay. Now I gotta like show everybody because this is cool. I might be skipping ahead, but look
at that. Oh, I was so happy I knocked something over. Look at that.
We did it. We did it.
Okay, so let's yes, that's cool. One of the things you're gonna need is I think you're gonna need values, but I think I remember what they are because I've done this so many times. You can just click on chase.
Oh, okay.
Let's just use Chase Bank. Okay. And I think it's user_good. And this is on the documentation, so I'm not like revealing anything, super secret. And I think it's pass good.
With a capital P.
Just lowercase PASS_good.
Check your passwords. Never. All right. Let's do, savings account. It has
more savings. Money. Okay. All right. Continue. And this is success. All right.
Yay.
There you go. You see that? What does that say?
See, this one says John Doe. I didn't actually name mine John Doe, but it just uses the default of of that account, right?
Yes, that's what we passed in as a prop to account holder. I'm sorry, it's the ACH. The account holder name was John Doe, so it returned, John Doe.
Even though, like yours, for example, says John Don't.
Oh, that is a good point.
Because, like, look, I've named my account holder Hi.
Oh, That is very interesting. Let's open up your. We're gonna have to do some troubleshooting here.
Well, I'm wondering if it's because the Square account is to John Doe. That's what I'm wondering. If that's why, or not the Square account, but the
Square API.
But the credit card Chase account is to John Doe. Look for your alert function call.
That's the same thing. I mean, so it should be alerting. Let's look at your developer tools and look at what is happening. Now we have a puzzle. Now he's with me.
Okay. Inspect. And then I don't fully understand what all of these are for. So would I go to console?
Yeah, let's go to console. Let's just see if anything was logged on the console. Unchecked runtime last error. Lost. No message port.
Actually, I've run into this one before. Hold on.
Message board closed before.
It's plugins. Manage extensions. Turn them all off. I don't know if that's causing the other one, but that is what causes that error.
Okay, so we can try to go through again after having eliminated that one thing. Let's see what happens.
Okay, hold on. Let's move this down. Can I move this one down? Jeez.
User good.
And then
Past good.
Underscore good.
Uh-huh.
Commit. Close. No.
Let's try checking.
Okay, then I'm gonna do nope, still John Doe.
Still John Doe. That is interesting. Let's look at the CLI.
Oh.
So this is your
He
server
said,
side.
Moot was going to say go to the network tab and turn on recording of requests.
Oh,
okay.
Cool.
Network tab.
I was just thinking about the network tab. I was like, we go to the network tab, or we could go to your server side. But yeah, that's
no, we don't want Vite. We don't need to invert it.
There's a looks like there's a record button.
Oh, yep. I think it's recording now. I'm guessing. Are you recording? I guess we'll find out.
So what we want to do is do another request. There you go.
I don't know if it's recording though. Your filter should change from JS to oh. It's under, should I change my filter then?
To fetch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Fetch. Sweet. The last time I did that stuff was with Mishko that built quick because he was showing me like load times. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Close. Never. Continue because it was same for checking I'm doing savings again.
Yep.
And then stop.
Oh, interesting. I didn't see a fetch request. And I'm actually seeing an error on your server side, like in your compile client error successfully. Unhandled rejection, error aborted. Connection reset exception. Socket. Oh, you know what's happening?
What?
I just realized we have API/pay, but we haven't built the backend.
Oh, because I got excited to see it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, using that content, it works.
Yep.
So, I will learn that. Follow directions and don't get too excited to skip ahead.
I mean, we could set it up so it runs without the back end, but we might as well just set the back end up.
Yes, I dig it. Do you have time? Because we're right at the hour mark and I have another half hour before I need to go do anything. So okay, I feel like we can do this.
We can do this. We can do it fast.
All right.
So what you want to do is I'm going to go to pay.js. Remember there
we go.
Set up that file.
Yes.
It's in API. There you go. And then page.js. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So what we want to do is we want to import client.
Okay.
Can you see my screen? Can you see
No,
my screen?
let me go back to your screen.
Okay. All right. So let me make this big.
Yay, thank
We're
you.
going to import client from Square.
Okay.
And we need that to create an instance of client. Remember, you're talking about object-oriented, right? So client is the class, and then we want to create an object, an instance of that class. And remember, your imports are in your external imports are in quotes.
Yes.
You're going to import random UUID from crypto. And I mean, without getting too deep in the weeds, I have a comment about it, but it's basically going to generate a random and unique number up to a certain percentage.
Okay. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Because me and crypto, we're not even there yet. And that's like what Anthony, who was hanging out with us the other day, what he does. And when I first met him, he was just like, don't even look at it yet. Just don't worry about trying to understand all of that.
Now this isn't like cryptocurrency. This is cryptography. This is a branch of, I guess, cybersecurity. So it's going to be used to generate a number that has a key that is attached to the block of information that you get from the front end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got my imports done, and then the next one is the
bigint.prototype.toJSON. And then you want to do function and then return this to string. This is going to allow you to stringify big ints, basically long numbers. It's just something that we have to. I was like, I actually went on Stack Overflow and looked this up, and it was just like kind of a rabbit hole. But I was just like, okay, I just need to just include it because if I want to have long numbers, for instance, a long account number, then and I want to be able to convert it to string, then I'm going to need this. And there are different types of ints, and there's like what's called a big int, which is one of the types of ints. Integers, when I say int.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and then the next thing is creating this instance of payments API. I'm sorry, the instance of client and calling it payments API. So you want to do const payments API and then do client. And then in new client as a parameter, you want to pass in a object with two key value pairs, one access token, and then process.env.square access token. Now remember that square access token? We created that last time, or
Right.
We didn't create it. We got it from the Square dashboard.
And we created the env.local, right?
Yep. We put it on in that file.
Okay, cool.
So this should work. This should, since it's in the root folder, it should find it.
Can you move your mouse a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
I like that your way of teaching this, of taking it off of your screen, because it's like getting me used to seeing what you've written and getting used to writing it myself, but then being able to look for my own errors,
right?
Which is really annoying.
It's a scaffolding technique because some people learn visually, some people learn by hearing, some people learn by tactile, actually typing, and this allows multiple modalities when someone is learning, because I'm actually explaining as I'm going through, but you're also seeing it and then you're also typing it. So it's like 3 of the 4 main modalities.
Oh, geez. Yeah, because I definitely do better by hearing, but then being able to see it and type it myself, you're right. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I have something to compare it to as well, which makes it a lot easier to see, oh, did I get that right? Which granted, I didn't see that I typed await as away.
Right.
At least that one was a little easier to find.
Yeah, and as you do this more and you kind of get used to some of the JavaScript conventions, you be like, oh, this is a async await. Like I've seen it a bunch of times. So when I see like an async, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what that is. But it just takes like doing it over and over and over again. You start to get used to those things, and you start to write them yourself when you're writing applications. Now, I put some console logs in here. They're not necessary. They were like for troubleshooting purposes.
Okay, I'm just getting a parsing error for new with a comma like in front of new for new client.
Oh, can you show your screen, please?
Yeah. There we go. Right here.
You're missing an equal sign.
Oh my God. Where? Equals
Right after
new
payment
client?
API and then the close braces. Now, let me take a second to explain what's happening here. This is actually called object destructuring, and it's a very, very complicated term. But basically, what it's going to do is this. It's going to go into client. It's going to see if it can find a key payments API, and it's going to save what you're creating into a variable called payments API.
Okay.
So it's going to see if there's something matching. The
Got
same
it.
thing with client from Square. It's going to look in the Square library or the Square NPM registry or whatever, and see if there's something called client. And then it's going to create a variable called client and save it in there. And now you can use it in this file.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what that notation is. It's object destructuring.
Okay. So that made sense. And I'm just taking a look. Oh, okay. This is going to be something that I just got to learn how to see. Like I was staring at the new client thing before asking you, and you're like, you're missing your equals. And I'm like, dude, I've been staring at this. Why didn't I register that I'm missing the equals? I'm going to learn. It's going to happen.
Oh,
Of like missing stuff. It's really annoying. But, I'm not the only one that does it. And learning from other people that are dyslexic, it's going to be good.
yay.
Just might take me a minute.
Yeah. So notice there's an export here, an export default. So
Yes.
there has to be a default export from your JavaScript file in the React ecosystem. So this one specifically says this function is going to be your default export. And it's also going to be an async function. So there's that async word again. So this
means there's an await.
Yeah, there's going to be another await that pairs with that, at least one that pairs with that async. Now, the first one is we have an if check. If the request method is post, remember our front end, it was a post request. That means like a post request could be like, you're sending information to a database and you want that database to save it, but you have to send them the information that you want it to save. So in the body of that post request would be the information that you want, and it could be, it has to be stringified. We did that stringification, JSON.stringify. But this request.method, this standard REQ, this is being passed into the handler, the request and the response. So there's a request to an HTTP request, and there's an HTTP response. So it's going to take your request and it's going to look at the method on your request, which we sent in the fetch request. And we named it post. If we go back to index.js and we go here to this fetch, here's our method.
We called it post. Okay.
We called it post. So it's going to look at that object and look at the method key and see if it's post.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's the first thing. And then,
why are there 3 equals for required method post?
So, yeah, there's single equals in JavaScript is assignment. That's when you're assigning one value to another value in memory.
Okay.
Double equals is when you're checking to see if 2 things are the same, but if they aren't the same type, it's going to change the type of one of those things to match the other. And I think it's the second to match the first. I believe that's how it is. It might be the other way around. But it's basically, it has type conversion. Triple equals means it compares their value and it compares their type. And they have to be both equal in order for that to be true. So double equals, their type doesn't have to be the same. So like one can be an integer and one can be a string. You can compare, like for instance, let's see here. Like let's say if I just wanted to do if 6 equals, equals 6, right? That would come back false. Because yes, they're both 6s, but this is a string 6 and this is a number 6 or an integer.
Okay.
If I did this double equals, that would be true.
I'm getting it, not getting it.
Because it's going to change, like it would change this 6 to a string. Or change this to a number.
Okay.
So in memory, it would be going, oh, hey, this is what I see. Those are equal. True. Says, okay, that if check is true. Oh, that's what that triple equals mean. It's the deep equals where it doesn't do any type conversion. It doesn't convert the type. It just compares them as they are to see if they're exactly equal.
I'm missing something, so I'm trying to find what I'm missing.
Oh, okay.
Wait. Console. Because you said that I don't need the console log, right?
No, you don't.
And then do I need, I need rest status though? And rest status, the 2 rest status?
Yes, those are very important. So what our RES is, remember there's request and response. So this is going to say, assuming everything is happy and you get a good response, it's going to return 200 and then JSONify the result and return the result, which is this what's stored in this variable from create payment. And I wanted to mention that remember there was 2 things you had to do. You had to initiate a payment and you had to generate a token. You also need a backend to actually process that token. And that's what this backend, that simple backend code is doing. It's processing that token that we got from the front end. So, that's just how the Square API works. They want to make sure double, triple check. And, if you initiate a credit card payment, for instance, it checks the credit card and makes sure it's valid, right? And make sure any other information associated is valid. And then it sends, once it gets, it gets a success and it generates a token, then it sends it to the backend or wherever backend, you want to send it to. And then, that backend needs to process the token. So you have to make some logic to process the token.
I get it in theory. I think some of this is still I'll get there. I will understand the words you're saying.
A token really is just a long number. And this token means this was a valid Square transaction that just happened. It's like if you buy something at a store.
It's already been declared. Sorry, I gotta.
Go ahead.
For my export default async function handler, it says parsing error identifier handler has already been. Trying to move so I can see the.
Oh, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay. I'm gonna be mad if it's another comma. Yeah, so parsing error identify handler has already been declared 1530. Oh. Up here? Oh, because this was already here.
I didn't
so
see
I can delete this one, right?
Yep.
Because this one was already here.
Yep. Yeah, you can only have one default.
Okay. Voila. And then, am I done? Do I get to test it?
Yes, you do.
Yay!
That is your reward.
And it is making a lot of sense. Looking at it, I feel like I could at least figure my way through it. Now, I don't think I'll remember exactly how to reset it up by myself, but I would at least be like, okay, cool. I think I can read enough of it, which it is definitely getting easier as I have these. Oh, and Moot Woot, I know that I've been very excited about learning all of this right now. How's filming?
They just released a new video I saw pop up on my phone. Square.
Oh, I should check it out then.
Yeah, they're on their YouTube channel.
All right. I'm going to do checking just to see if it works. And glad to hear that it was great. I didn't get any pop-up.
Okay, let's go back. Unauthorized. Okay, let's read that. Authentication error. Okay.
I'm trying to make it bigger to read it all. HTTP header of your request was incorrect or expired. The header value is expected to be in the format bearer token without quotation marks, where the token is. So I just need to call it bearer token instead of token.
No prototype.
Ooh. Okay, I'll definitely have to check out that Moot Woot. I can maybe I'll watch it to see if I can replicate this.
Yes, he had. Did he just say I can't see the comments, but did he just say he has a YouTube channel where he walks through building a next React app?
A React Web Payments SDK.
Yeah, yes.
He just said we should check the env file and how you're importing the access token when initializing the Square Node SDK. So that would be my env file. I named it Square Access Token.
You're missing a C. It says access.
This is gonna drive me freaking bonkers. Like, I'm looking at it and it looks fine.
Welcome to software development.
Okay.
Make sure you save the file. There you go. Yeah.
All right. So
we're gonna need to rerun that. Unless it reran. Oh yeah. Okay. Yep. Here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Every time I see that user good, pass good, I always think of Joey or the Hulk.
Oh, that's funny.
Joey on Friends. Meet good.
Okay. Do we have it? Please work. Continue. Okay. Oh, it said this unauthorized authentication error bearer app or bearer token. Pay.js file.
Yeah, it's your back end.
Square access token is access token. I got my C's and my S's, at least this time. Okay.
Create payment, amount, money. Just for kicks, let's go back to where did I have it? Our config file.
Which is an API. No.
Next config.js.
Okay.
Yeah. And let's put in you know what I had before, the env as a key above React strict mode true. You're going to put in env with a colon. And then open brace.
That one?
Yep.
Okay.
And you're going to need a comma after the brace, the last brace.
Goodness gracious. I need to tell Amory. I keep telling her that I'm doing lives right now and she's going to keep calling. We'll talk later. Okay. env, close brackets, comma.
Yep. And then just in there, you're going to put in square access token.
In the brackets?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm trying to. Am I putting it where it has the token information, or am I putting it just the file name?
What we're gonna try to put the token in. And see
if the actual numbers.
Yes. It's a long string. Should be.
Okay. And since this is just me doing some, it says, that we may just have needed to restart the server.
Oh.
So if I remember correctly, then I can just do, save our spot just in case. All right, and then restart our server. All right, and do these, do these, do these, do these. These are good. Those, never, checking, continue. It really likes the bearer token.
Um,
Okay, so
incorrect or expired. Huh.
I will.
CHTTPS developer.squareup.com docs build. Oh, you got it. There we go.
Yeah, let's do this. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to jump off here in a second.
Okay.
Not right now, but just
Yeah, no, you're good. I was just
giving you
gonna
fair
say,
warning.
I believe so. He asked, am I using the sandbox token that matches the application ID that I have set in my payment form?
Yeah, I mean, we can go back and on your dashboard, just make sure that those things match up.
I feel like if I remember correctly, it was really hard to get back to the screen that showed like the sandboxes. Oh, apparently not, because it's developer.squareup.com/apps. Squareup.com/apps. Okay. And I need to sandbox token that matches my application ID you have
You want
set
to go to open.
On this one?
Yep. Okay. So yeah, and then scroll down. So this is sandbox. And there's your access token right there.
Okay, so, well, you guys can see this one because I'm learning. But I know that you're normally not going to do this because it's not what you're supposed to do. Nobody needs to know this stuff. Okay, save.
Just make sure we restart the server this time.
Okay. Okay. Wait. There we go. All right. Yes, because knowing me, it was a copy and paste error or something. Underscore good. Oh, the credentials you provided were incorrect. Okay. User underscore good pass underscore good. Close. Never. Checking. Continue. Continue. Same error.
Oh.
Well, this does make it tricky.
Yeah, it does.
And this is
a little
like
frustrating.
Yes. And I would say, a little bit about why we learn and, going in looking for the errors. And I mean, at this point, I feel like I have a good idea of what's going on. And maybe, I'll double check my application ID before we go. I'm going to put this server really quick. Application ID is in my index file. Yeah. All right. But then my sandbox application ID is right here. And then here. And we paste it.
Yeah, it didn't look like it changed.
And we have here. Ding, ding, ding.
I'm curious. Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna do it in incognito, just to be sure. Bay. Continue. Chase. User underscore good. Pass underscore good. See if I can type. Yay. Yay. Continue. No go. Same error.
Yep. So we're getting a successful generation of the token, it looks like. But it's actually the processing of that token on the back end where we are getting some trouble.
Did they have a temporary credit card I could use?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we could try credit card.
Let's just see if that so what?
Go to the go to there, and you want to go. I can't remember exactly where it is, but if you go through here, you're probably. It was like 411111111. I actually think I might.
Whatever you want for those ones. Okay, cool. Oh, input card number. All right. Now, let's do it in incognito just to make sure it's not caching.
And I think that can just be something greater than today.
And
111460. Okay. That has to be a valid zip code.
Hey. Okay, well, it didn't do anything.
Is your server running?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in Sandbox. It can be whatever. Oh, in for zip code, but it's not even registering that we're doing anything. It's just killing.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to jump off here.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry to leave you hanging, but
no, it's good.
We can come back to this and finish out the last flourish. Clearing this error essentially.
I'm gonna work on trying to figure it out. Now I'm like, maybe this is what I'm gonna do for my first thing to do it on my own. Although it gets really confusing not understanding it all.
Yeah.
But Mootwood is going to be on the show too, so hopefully we get it figured out by then.
Yeah, you can send me the stack trace, from your command line. You can also just get the main error message and Google that, and you'll come up with some like different Stack Overflow examples of people doing authorization of bearer token. You can add plus square. If people have run into those same issues before and what they had to do, checking the environment local file, checking your application ID, checking where it's stored, all of those things.
Cool. And yes, I do. Thank you for giving me the Slack URL because I need to download that for so many Slacks. I don't know how everybody keeps up with all of the Slacks in Discord and forums and Twitter and LinkedIn.
They're multiplying.
They are. Multiplying. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you both for tuning in and helping us through this. And I'll post if I figure it out on my own. So
Okay.
till
Sounds
next
good.
time, Bakari. Talk soon.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.